greatest commandment in the law. And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. Matthew 22, verse 6 through 40. How are you going to love KOKOMO?
So just before we moved here to Kokomo, right before Bobby had Avery, we went to the animal shelter and we adopted a husky that we named Luna. And Luna, husky was my dream dog. I was so excited to get this husky. And she was a beautiful dog. At first, she was super well behaved, and she started to get really, really disruptive and destructive. And she started eating socks and mostly the baby's socks and clothes, and just getting really, really anxious and destructive. And so last week we had to do the unthinkable, and we had to find a new home for our Luna. And so I got on Facebook, and I posted on Facebook, and I it went like free pets in Indiana, and I posted a picture, and within minutes we had tons of replies. And we had this nice lady who came from Lafayette and got her and took her home that night. And right before dinner, I told Andrew, our 5-year-old, said, Andrew, like, we're gonna give Luna to a new home. And instant, just tears welling up in his eyes. He was so upset. We sat and ate dinner, and he would not touch his food. He was so upset and distraught. He lost his appetite. He wouldn't eat. He sat at the dinner table for a lot longer than we did. He just sat and looked at his food. He wouldn't eat. And then 8:30 rolled around. We sent him to bed. And about 10 o'clock, the lady came and picked up the dog. And so I took her the dog's stuff, and I came back upstairs. I sat on the couch to watch TV, and I hear sobbing. Andrew stayed up for another hour and a half just waiting for the moment where we gave Luna away. And I go in there, and healing a 5-year-old's broken heart is not easy. But I had to be like, dude, when we get a house, when we have a yard, it'll be easier. Like, let's just wait. Luna's going to be happier. She's going to be in a new place. She's going to have another husky to play with. And nothing was helping. And, the next morning he's telling mommy, Daddy said we could get 5 dogs in 2 weeks. No, wait a minute. That's not what I said. But his heart was broken. And I've had moments of brokenheartedness, and you may not be able to relate, but 2017, the Jacksonville Jaguars played the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Jacksonville has the lead, and the Patriots have the ball. And Sony Michel breaks a 20-yard run, and Miles Jack from Jacksonville strips the ball, gets up, and starts running to the end zone. And he makes it to the end zone. Touchdown. We secure the win. But no, they called the play back. It was almost still our ball, but they called him down, which, by the way, Miles Jack was not down. And it's a conspiracy because the Patriots ended up winning that game and going on to the Super Bowl, where they eventually lost to the Eagles. But they shouldn't have even gone to the Super Bowl. But that broke my heart. I'm a diehard Jacksonville Jaguars fan. I'm like the only one. But it was awful to watch. And then I'm a huge sports guy, so it's happened. I've been a Kansas Jayhawk fan all my life, so every year ends in disappointment for me. Every year I pick them to win the March Madness tournament, and they never do. But I still pick them anyway. But I want to ask you the question, what breaks God's heart? I don't know if you know this, but there are 57,000 people living in Kokomo. If you add Greentown, we get up to 60,000. And among those 60,000 people, there are 69 churches, or Christian churches, in Kokomo. And you add Greentown, that number goes up to 78. So there's 78 churches serving 60,000 people. But according to bestplaces.net, 50% of those 50% of people in Kokomo consider themselves religious. 40% of those consider themselves Christian-leaning or Christian. So 60% of the Kokomo Greentown area is looking at a Christless eternity. 2 out of 3 people that you see on the street are looking at a Christless eternity. And I think the current state of Kokomo breaks God's heart. So I want to ask you a rhetorical question. So 36,000 people. 2 out of 3 people that you see on the street every day are looking at an eternity with Christ. Does your heart break? Does your gut sink? Do you care? God's heart breaks when he looks at Macedonia not doing anything. God's heart breaks when he looks at us not getting into the community, not reaching out. We have an opportunity to reach 36,000 people, or at least tell them the story of the gospel. When Jesus sends out his disciples at the end of Matthew, what does he tell them? He tells them to go make disciples. He doesn't say to wait for them to come. He doesn't say to sit and expect them to show up. He doesn't say go to seminary and then go make disciples. He says go make disciples. He says go. And that doesn't just mean, and where did they start first? They didn't start like, Peter didn't go, all right, I'm going to take Asia Minor. John, you go to England. No. They started at home and then spread. They started in Israel first and then spread outward. We have the same central calling that the disciples had. Jesus didn't say go make more Christians to sit in church. He said go make more disciples. And it is the same calling for all of us. All of us are called to the same thing. We are called to go make disciples. According to a Barna research done in March of 2018, half of American Christians had never heard the Great Commission. Half of American Christians did not know it was their job to go make disciples. But this is all of our calling. This is for all of us. Jesus didn't say, go to seminary, then go make disciples. Go to Bible college, and then go make disciples. Go on mission, go learn, and then go make disciples. No, he said go. There was no prerequisite to going. It was go make disciples. James 2:14-17 says, "What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, 'Go in peace and be warmed and filled,' without giving them the things they need for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, 'You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works.'" We aren't just called to hear the call. We aren't called to listen to the call. We're called to act on the call. So who's familiar with Penn and Teller? You guys familiar with Penn and Teller? So Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller said this: "I don't respect people who don't proselytize. I don't respect that at all. If you believe there is a heaven and a hell and people could be going to hell or not getting eternal life or whatever, and you think it's not really worth telling them this because it would make it socially awkward, how much do you have to hate somebody to not proselytize? How much do you have to hate someone to believe in everlasting life and believe that is possible and not tell them that? If I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that a truck was coming at you and you didn't believe, there's a certain point that I tackle you, and this is more important than that." We have 36,000 people about to be hit by a truck, and we are doing nothing. we don't care. How much do we hate our community? How much do we hate the people in our community to not care about their eternal damnation? The last church I was at, we had a lot of fighting in the church. The elders, the ministers, the congregation, everybody was fighting amongst themselves. When I got there, the church was at 150, and the year before I got there, the church was at 300. When I left, the fighting still hadn't ended. And the reason I left was because of the fighting. We would rather fight ourselves than fight for others. We would rather fight each other and not fight for others' lives. We need to be fighting for other people. What's going on here doesn't matter. What's going on in this church doesn't matter. What's going on out there is what matters. 2 out of 3 people that you meet every day are going to hell, and we don't care. Let me ask you this question. Do you want to go to hell? Plain and simple, do you want to go to hell? No. Why is it okay for everyone else to go to hell? Why is that the appropriate answer for everyone else? 2 out of 3 people are going to hell and you're okay with it. They made choices. Whatever. If we don't want to go to hell, why is it okay for them? Jesus is approached by Pharisees and Sadducees, and they ask him, what's the greatest commandment in the law? He says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And a second is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. If we truly love our neighbors, hell is not an okay answer for them. If we are showing love to the people around us, hell is not an option for them. We can't accept that. We as a church have to stop accepting complacency and start loving our community. What do we need to do to love our community? How do we show love to our community? And let me tell you a story. My home church in Edgewood, New Mexico, they started what's called Love Week. They started this about four years ago. It's called Love Week, and the whole purpose of the week is just to reach out and show love to everybody in the community. They take donuts to fire stations and police stations. They host a meal for first responders. They take goodie bags to different businesses. God, I can't even think of all the things they do. They do so much for the community. But there was one instance 4 years ago where my mom, she took just goodie bags of snacks to Wells Fargo in Kroger there in New Mexico, in Edgewood. And one of the women there was going through hell. Her husband was an Albuquerque police officer. And this story was all over the news. A homeless man was shot by Albuquerque police officers, and her husband was one of the police officers that shot him. And he was facing murder charges. He was facing trial, potential prison time. Her life was crumbling around her. And then 4 years later, the charges were dropped. They didn't, he was found innocent. 4 years later, after receiving this goodie bag, all the people in the bank, why would a church care about us? Her and her husband are now so involved in the community and so involved in the church that they're working with the youth ministry. They are actively seeking ways to save women and children from sex slave rings and human trafficking. They are working to set up a nonprofit or a branch of a nonprofit foundation that provides necessities and clothing for foster families who have incoming foster students. And her husband is looking at going in full-time ministry. And I'm not saying that a goodie bag is the cause of that, but it was a catalyst to kingdom work being done and the growth of the kingdom. Because this goodie bag was a catalyst And to them entering the church, now not only have their lives been impacted, but the people around them are being impacted daily by them. Because the church showed that it loved the community, and now they are loving the community too. A simple act of love can make an eternal difference. And loving the community is not rocket science. You don't have to, there's not crazy ways to go about it. But here at Macedonia, change is overdue. We have to rethink the way we do outreach. We have to rethink the way we love the community, because we can't expect the church to come to us. Or not the church, the community to come to us. We can't expect people far from God to just enter in. We have to go get them. We have to go show love. We won't make any progress sitting on our rears in these pews. We will make an impact on our feet and on our knees and with our hands outside of this church. My home church in Valley View Christian Church in Edgewood, New Mexico, asked this simple question. If Valley View closed its doors, would the community weep? So let me ask you, if Macedonia closed its doors right now, would the community weep? Would the community even care? Or would they just kind of shrug? Would it be a story, oh, that church has been going down a while. Sucks. Would the community care? It is time for us to show love to our community. It is time for us to be known for loving KOKOMO. We as a church need to be out and about pouring love into the community so much that people know exactly who we are by the God we serve. We need to be such a prominent part in the community that when there are people sick, homeless, dying, needy, troubled, hungry, poor, unloved, broken, addicted, hurt, lonely, or lost, they get sent here. We need to be known for being a hospital for the sick, not a place of fighting and complacency. We need to be known here at Macedonia for loving our community. So starting today, we're pushing this campaign. We're starting this campaign called Love KOKOMO. We need to be serving our community. We shouldn't expect it to come to us. We need to be out serving our community. And it's not rocket science. You can be serving an organization. It doesn't even have to be a Christian organization. Here in KOKOMO, you can be working and serving your time there. And that is showing your community love. Take a box of donuts to the fire department or police department. Just show the love of God. Buy somebody's meal, like a stranger's meal at a restaurant. There are so many ways to love the community, and we're not doing any of them. Every day, like every Saturday, you go out on the street and there's panhandlers everywhere. They could be receiving the love of God, but what are we doing? Roll them up, shut them out. We're not doing anything. And we want you to get involved in Love KOKOMO. We want this whole church to be on board with this push. Not for our glory. This isn't for us. This isn't for John. This isn't for Zach. This isn't for Curtis. This isn't for Peggy. This isn't for Macedonia. This is for Christ. This is for God. We're not doing it for us. I don't care if they go to another church, but as long as they hear the gospel, as long as they are hearing the push and the love of Christ, who cares where they go? But we need to be responsible for doing it. We can't expect everyone else to. If you want more ideas on how to love KOKOMO, go to lovekokomo.com/ideas. We have a few ways up there just to inspire you, to get just ideas. You have so much potential that you don't even know. Cleta, she was in first service, she came up to me afterwards and said, hey, I'm going to an apple orchard. I'm going to send a bushel to each fire and police department here in Kokomo. Awesome. That's all it takes. Show God's love. We are so blessed with hope. We have a hope that we should be spreading, but we're not. In your seats, we have these little cards. They pick up a bunch of these. They say, come check us out. Just a little info about Macedonia, our Sunday services and address and everything. But this is just, for fun. This is just a way to show it. But we need to be loving our community. Because if we don't, there are 36,000 people who are looking at an eternity with Christ. So do you care? Are you going to do something about it? Because we need to. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day. And I thank you for the opportunity to love our community. I thank you for the blessing you've poured out on us, the hope that you've given us, that we can spread that hope to our community. I pray that we hear your call and reach out and start loving Kokomo. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.